My initial intention with this review was to firstly judge Martyrs as a remake, drawing comparisons to the original film, and then judging it as a standalone piece. However, Martyrs fails so poorly as a film in its own regard that determining its failings merely based on the original film would be a pointless endeavour. Martyrs, the original, is a French film from 2008, which gained much of its exposure from its scenes of rather graphic violence. A fact which I feel does the film something of a disservice. While Martyrs can't hold up by virtue of its own merits, it's certainly elevated by the discussions one could derive from it based on, say, its structure or its themes. If nothing else, it's intriguing, it's worth discussing. Now, a mere 7 years later, we have an American remake. Why? Well, speaking broadly in these instances, there are usually two reasons, both of which Martyrs fails at. To be remade for the sake of audiences not having to read subtitles would imply that both versions would play out much in the same way, if not nearly identically. Martyrs does not. The next implication would be to expand upon elements from the original in order to perhaps further develop its themes. Martyrs does not. What was once a powerfully visceral depiction of revenge, which becomes a catalyst for essentially two smaller narratives, has now become an embarrassingly unconvincing depiction of a damaged young girl being pursued by Western horror tropes of all things. These horror tropes are something I can't really discuss without spoiling either film, but understand that our protagonist, Lucy, is pursued by a monster. In the original, there is a very specific and wholly unnerving reason that this monster looks the way that it does. In the remake, it is simply a monster, complete with stretchy jaw and glowing yellow eyes, of course. This depiction of the monster in the remake, to put it both bluntly and broadly, is a clear demonstration of how Martyrs completely misses the point of what its French counterpart is, what it seeks to achieve. On its own terms, it's rife with poor stilted dialogue, uninteresting and oftentimes lazy shot composition, and some of the most transparent acting I've seen in a while. The original Lucy walks very convincingly down that fine line between appearing cold and calculated to then completely psychotic and uncontrollable, and switching between the two. This Lucy, well...
I have known that smell my whole life. From every time that he beat me, every time that he walked into my cell. And he told me how perfect I was. He told me that I was the one that they'd all been waiting for.
In short, Martyr's failings can be wholly encapsulated in what is supposed to be the first shocking scene of the film, which is ultimately ruined by these absolutely pitiful shotgun sound effects. Compared to the impact of this. Martyrs is an instance where I cannot recommend anything about it. Through and through, it is a botched, amateurish misinterpretation. The 2008 original, however, is something I'd certainly recommend, provided you can stomach some of the rather notoriously graphic scenes. Though not perfect, and with themes that will cause a debate even within yourself, its impact will certainly linger. And it also saves you from watching the remake, which doing so would only cause yourself to become a martyr.